Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. And speaking of this perspective of race, this is going to be a video where I talk directly about that, and in reference to, an actress that I've known about for many years, and somebody who's really at the center. I'm not going to, well, maybe the center is not the correct word to use, but she's definitely a reference in how people look at the racial question in terms of racial classification, color classification in the Brazil, in Brazil in comparison to the United States. And her identification and classification, it speaks volumes for how people see the comparison, how race works in Brazil versus the United States, the similarities, the differences. That's what I want to talk a little bit about today, specifically speaking on actress Camila Pitanga, who affirms her identity. I'm Black, and if you think I'm not, that's your problem. So this is going to be a pretty good video. Camila Pitanga is one of the actresses that I first discovered when I first, started studying things, all things Brazil. And it's amazing. I look up now, I think Camila is either 47 or she will be 47. So her, along with actress Thais Araújo, actress Isabel Filarges, many other people that I came to know in Brazil in the early 2000s. These are all people that I'm not going to say we grew up together, but I'm just saying they're part of my first real experience with getting to know the situation with Black Brazilians. So it's going to come up in this video as I go on, but I did remember when I started buying the only magazine that Brazil has that specifically targets the Black population is House of Brazil magazine. And I just distinctly remember the cover that Miss Camila Pitanga appeared on with her father, Antonio Pitanga. I have that issue somewhere in my archives. But anyway, I'm going to get into that in a minute. For now, before I get into the video, I want you to like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell. Definitely helps with the YouTube algorithms. I passed 9,000 subscribers this week, so I'm happy about that. But to grow even more, I'm going to need you guys to help me out by sharing some of my material. With that said, I always like to introduce the story and the video that I might cover with some context. So I'm going to do the same with the video today. So let's get into this. So this is actress Camila Pitanga. I'm going to talk about a podcast she participated in. I'm not going to say, I don't know, it might have been a couple of months ago. It's one of those stories where I learn about it. I don't have a chance to react to it immediately. So I just kind of put it in the archive to when I can get to it. I think she might have recorded this interview a couple of months ago. Don't quote me on that. I really don't remember. I think it was earlier this year, maybe in the last 3 or 4 months. Not sure. It doesn't matter. Point is, regardless of when I cover a video or a topic from Brazil, if you live in the United States, this is going to be new to you anyway, or wherever. If you live outside of Brazil, maybe I should say that. These topics might be new to you anyway. So this is Camila Pitanga, well-known actress. And as I've said, because of what she looks like, this brings in the question again of who is considered Black in Brazil, who is not, how would she be perceived in the United States? And this always is going to lead into a huge discussion because people are going to see her in different ways, depending on what is your perception of what it means to be Black. People often say you can't apply what's going on in the United States to what's going on in Brazil. You guys have no right to be able to say what, just because you see them as Black in Brazil, we work under a different scheme. And I agree with that and I disagree with that, because what I'm saying is populations have to decide which way they go in terms of whatever topic that might be. I always use a classic example. What do African Americans define themselves as today? Do we still call Black people Negro? Do we call people colored? Do we call them Afro-American, African-American? Now you got people saying, foundational Black Americans or American descendants of slaves. It's the people that have to decide this, right? So even if you were to say, well, back in the day, Brazil didn't look at people like Camila Pitanga, the lady in these pictures, we didn't see them as Black. They're mestizos, they're mixed, they're pardos, they're mulattoes, whatever they might be. But what happens in the same way that I'm talking about Black Americans, Black Brazilians have the right to define who they're going to be. And it's just going to depend. This is not for me to participate in. I can give my opinion on it, but ultimately it's for Black Brazilians to decide. Okay. I asked a question. If Camila Pitanga was born in the United States, and whether she had two black parents or a black parent and a white parent, how would you see her? Particularly if she grew up in a black neighborhood. That's the question. It's not the question of she's Brazilian, so thus she's a Latina. Okay, that doesn't really fly because the Latina identity is not something you're going to have in Brazil because Brazil isn't a Latin American country. So I'm asking people in the United States generally, they will place you into a certain box depending on how they perceive you. And from what I know of people from Latin America, if a person opens their mouth, they could look as black as anybody else. If they open their mouth and start speaking English with a Spanish, Portuguese, French accent or whatever, people are automatically going to put them in another box just because, oh, well, I don't know what you are, but you're not one of us. So that's what I'm asking. Looking at Camila Pitanga, if she was born in the United States, if she was born in a black neighborhood and she had either two black parents or a black parent and a white parent, how would you perceive her? You know, not even considering that she's Brazilian. I'm saying imagine she was not. So how does that work? For years, Brazilians define people who look at her, look like her. Some people would say she was white, years ago. Some people would say she's just a mestiza, she's just mixed, leave it at that. But nowadays, you got a lot of people in Brazil who look like Camila Pitanga who are calling themselves black. Do we have the right to deny them that identity? Do Brazilians have the right to deny her that identity? And she's been challenged on this over and over. So let's talk more about Camila Pitanga, the influence that she's had when lighter skinned people of African ancestry define themselves as black. This often persuades other people who also have fair skin to say, well, maybe I am black. The debate goes on because now in Brazil, there's a rising Pardo movement. There's a rising mestizo movement. People saying, no, we're not black. We don't belong in a black category. It's an ongoing debate. Again, I'm not Brazilian, so it's not for me to decide, but it is an intriguing debate that's going on. As I just mentioned, Camila, the first time I remember learning about Camila Pitanga when she would appear on the cover of House of Brazil magazine, and I'm going to talk about that as we go on. But first, who is Camila Pitanga? Obviously, these are three different pictures of her. Okay. Camila Pitanga is an actress and host famous for her prominent roles on TV, theater, and in movies. She is the daughter of actors Antonio Pitanga and Vera Maniais, whose footsteps she followed from an early age. She was an extra in the 1984 film Quilombo when she was only 6 years old. At the age of 11, she was one of the stage assistants on the program Clube da Criança, meaning, kids club, on the now defunct TV or TV Manchete, an old Brazilian television network. She made her debut on video as an aspiring model in the miniseries Sex Appeal 1993 on Global TV, again, Brazil's top television network for a number of years now. She had a rising career in soap operas in the following years with important characters in Fera Ferida in 93, A Próximo Vítima of 95, Malhação in 96, Porto dos Milagres in 2001, Mulheres Apaixonadas in 2003, among several others. Her greatest success came portraying a prostitute named Bebel or Bebel. I don't know, is it Bebel? Where she stole the show in the novella Paraíso Tropical in 2007, which earned her several awards. She also starred in Cama de Gato in 2009, Lado a Lado in 2012, Babilonia in 2015, Velho Chico in 2016, among many other titles. Away from soap opera, she acted in the series Aduanas in 2019 and dedicated herself more to her work as a television host. She got married in 2001, or she was married from 2001 to 2011 to the art director Claudio Amado Peixoto, the father of her only daughter. So this is her former husband and her daughter, Antonia, born in 2008. After 11 years together, the couple separated. She also dated actor Igor, Angel Corti from 2015 to 2017. She dated musician Rafael Rocha in 2018. Since 2019, she has been dating the artisan Beatriz Coelho. So without even really diving into this, it is an intriguing dynamic because, again, for years, Black Brazilian women have accused Black Brazilian men of having a preference for white women. Black men have pushed back and says, you guys do the same thing. And this isn't anything to criticize Camila Pitanga, but you'll notice that all of her partners, these are all white men. And then she came out as lesbian a few years ago, and that's also a white woman. I did an article about that some time ago that was just saying even when Black women come out as lesbians, they still end up dating white women. So I'm saying everybody is free, free choice to do what they do, but it just calls into question again when we look even in the artistic class, because it's the artistic class that most people talk about, that Black people tend to marry white people, right? So Camila Pitanga has the right to date whoever she wants, but this is the point that Black men have pushed back on this for a number of years. Like, you guys date white just as much as we do. And as you can see from all the partners I've seen, whether she's with a male or a female, I've seen Camila Pitanga with, white partners. Okay. Moving on. And this is I don't know if she's still with this woman, but when she came out as a lesbian, this is the woman that she was seeing. It is what it is. Camila is the national ambassador for the United Nations Women and director of the Human Rights Movement. Now, what I want to focus on today is an interview she did on a podcast. Now, I've taken a number of interviews from this podcast. These are two Brazilian actresses, Fernanda Paes Leme and Giovanna Eubank. They've had some really good guests on their show, and there's some really good interviews. So I've reacted to quite a few. And so when Camila appeared on this some months ago, I said, I definitely have to talk about this, because she talked about a lot of topics in the interview, but I wanted to focus on just a small excerpt of the interview, which I am going to overdub right now. So this is an excerpt of the Camila Pitanga interview on Quem Pode Pode podcast with Fernanda Paes Leme and Giovanna Eubank. She's going to talk about this magazine cover. Camila Pitanga has appeared on the cover of Raça Brazil magazine numerous times over the years. These are just two covers. The women that interviewed her for this podcast talked about this particular cover. This is Camila. This is her father, Antonio Pitanga. It had to have been in the, I don't know, somewhere between 96 and 2000 that this magazine cover came out. Just several stills from the interview. Camila Pitanga here. This is Camila Pitanga with the activist Sueli Carneiro. She is a feminist philosopher, one of the most well-known women in, you say, Black rights circles in Brazil. A lot of people look to her. She has brought forward Black women issues since about 1988 with her organization known as Guelades. Camila Pitanga says, people still don't see me as a Black woman. This is one of the things that she said in the interview. So with that said, I want to just get in, return, and just do an overdub on the interview so we can hear what Camila Pitanga had to say about this issue. So here we go.
Eu lembrei aqui de uma capa que você fez
I remembered a cover you did with your father for Raça magazine. Yes. In which you said, it's something, it's a phrase you say, you're proud to be Black. Yes, yes. And it was a scandal at the time, right? So in a sense, people didn't see you as a Black woman because of colorism. How was that? Yeah, I think there's that in Brazil. And I think even today there are people who still don't see you as a Black woman. That's right, that's right. Because there's this question of the phenotype being light, so you're not. And with me, it was like this. Why did you say that? Really? You're so beautiful, like that, like wanting to take care of me, protecting you. As if they were protecting me. It's a thing that's very, that famous unfortunate phrase, right? But gee, you don't look Black. Yeah, kind of. That's the point in that sense. And you felt that? Man, at that moment I was, I think, 17 when I did this cover, me and him. And that's all it is. It's only my identity. I wasn't saying that. I didn't realize how it could be, how it could symbolize for other people. That's my feeling. And it's really crazy. Millions of years later, when I met Sueli Carneiro, she told me, like, I was very moved. First of all, Sueli Carneiro, a person from the pantheon of art thinkers in our country. Anyway, a fantastic figure. I really read her stuff, books, Guelades. I studied Guelades. The whole legacy she has fostered to this day. In fact, the podcast she did with Mano Brown, one of the most sensational things I've seen in recent times. But she said, look, you have no idea what that symbolized for many Black girls. That cover of yours, that pride of being Black, was inaugurating something very important. That wasn't talked about publicly, but honestly, I didn't say it knowing that that's all it is. It's only obvious.
É só
Sim,
o
só o
óbvio.
que eu
Sim,
sinto.
que você
Only what I
sente.
Sabe?
feel,
Como eu me
how I
identifico, como eu fui
identify myself,
criada,
how I
como
was
eu me
brought up,
visto,
how I
como
see
eu
myself.
me
I look
olho,
at
me olho
myself.
no
I look in the
espelho. Sou
mirror.
preta. E
I'm
se
black.
você acha
And
que
if you
não
think
é,
I'm
gente,
not,
obrigada,
people,
desculpa,
thank you.
problema é seu.
Sorry, that's your
É.
problem. I have
Eu não tenho
nothing to
nada a
do
ver
with
com
it.
isso.
É,
Mas é a minha identidade.
E você
Okay, you heard what Camila Pitanga had to say about that particular topic. It's something that she deals with all the time. And I know there's going to be people out there, people are going to see her completely different. There's going to be people who say, yeah, she looks like somebody in my family. My sister looks like that. My aunt looks like that. My mother looks like that. Other people are going to be like, she's clearly not black. That's she's a mestizo. She's just mixed, period. There's going to be people too. I've seen other people say she looks like a white girl with a tan. People just say, from the United States, maybe people just, classify her as a Latina. But I'm saying this is an ongoing question. Camila Pitanga, to me, was very much emblematic of this whole topic because for years, you would have mestizos in Brazil who did not consider themselves black, people who look like her. But then with the movement, with black identity politics on the rise in Brazil, more and more people who look like her began to define themselves as black. Now, I'll say there's still probably many more who don't define themselves as black, but this is an ongoing debate. How people see Camila Pitanga. Does she have the right to identify herself the way she sees fit? There's so many different layers to this question of identity and classification. And again, will Brazilians see it the same way? Will Americans see it the same way? Will Europeans? How will Africans see her? I don't know. All of those regions I just mentioned, they might all have different answers, but this is what Camila Pitanga, this is what she's been standing by for a number of years. Again, this is Sueli Carneiro. She spoke on an interview that Sueli Carneiro did with Mano Brown. Mano Brown being the leader or the most well-known rapper in Brazil's most important hip-hop group known as the Racionais MCs. Sueli Carneiro did an interview with him some months back. Might have been last year or earlier this year. I can't really remember. It made a lot of, it was a really popular interview on the Mano Brown podcast. Let me see if there's anything else that I didn't cover here. I want to give a little bit of more context with Camila Pitanga because there's a lot of questions surrounding Camila. So as I said, she's a well-known actress. This is her with her father, Antonio Pitanga. He comes from, I think he was born in 1939, so he's about 85 now, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of articles I've covered with Camila Pitanga, again, this is one of the actresses that I became really familiar with when I first started studying things about Brazil. She said this some years ago, talking about her identity. She says, people questioning her blackness, it's as violent as if I was barred from a restaurant or a hotel because of my color. So this is what Camila had to say about people questioning her identifying herself as black. You hear what she said. Some people say, well, why would you say that? You're so beautiful. Again, this question in Brazil that says, if you're black, you cannot be beautiful. So if you're beautiful, on the other hand, you can't be black. That's how Brazilian society functions. So we see what it means to identify somebody's, how people see blackness in Brazil. That continues to this day. Her brother Hawko. Okay, this is her and her brother here. And they're striking a similar pose as her father and her mother. And Camila Pitanga looks a lot like her mother. I think there's a little bit more going on here in terms of, her identity with her parents. That's none of my business to talk about that, but I am thinking there's something else going on there. I got my own sources. I'm not going to get into that. Those who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go any further with that. Again, this is Camila produced or directed a documentary about her father, Antonio Pitanga, one of the most, famous black actors in Brazil. Let me see. These are just a few more articles that feature Camila. Now, this is her mother. Camila looks quite a bit like her mother. This is Vida Magalhães. She was an actress, I think, in the 60s and 70s in Brazil. She's older now. Her mother and her father. Okay. These are just some pictures of, as I said, Camila followed the footsteps of her mother and her father to become an actress. These are just some pictures of her father, Antonio Pitanga. Here's a picture of herself with Antonio and her brother Hawko. So, you could say that, it was meant for Camila Pitanga to be an actress, for many years. And by the way, I forgot to mention this. Antonio Pitanga is married to Benedita da Silva, who was one of Brazil's most famous Black politicians. Anybody who Benedita da Silva was one of the first people when I started studying about Brazil in the year 2000. I would constantly see her name. She had a book out at the time. So she comes from a well-to-do family. So this is what I wanted to introduce people to who Camila Pitanga is. She's been out for a number of years. She's been an actress, or she's been in front of the camera since about the age of 6. But what we're talking about here today is, how do people see Camila Pitanga? If somebody asks her, she's going to tell them, I am a Black woman. Eu sou mulher preta. And everybody's going to have their opinion about this. So that's why I wanted to present this particular story today, because the way she looks and how she identifies, this is one of the reasons why I feel like I wanted to start, blogging and doing a YouTube channel, so that people can understand how race is seen in another country that has descendants of Africans as a large percentage of their population. So anyway, I'm going to end this video here today. I'm going to ask you, as always, to like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, click on that notification bell so that you'll know when I put up new videos. And with that said, going to end this video here and request that you all come back. Check out the next video that I post.